let's move forward. This is the Monday the 17th of July. It's the meeting of Cabinet, and welcome to those that are joining us online, those that are joining us through the website, and those that are here in the chamber. So good evening to everybody. If we can just move forward, can I have authorisation to sign the minutes of the meeting held on the 12th of June 2023 as a correct record of the proceedings?
Move.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If I can move that into that direction, thank you. Okay, apologies for absence. Julie?
So we've just had apologies from the Chair of the Council, Councillor Mrs Cook.
Thank you. Are there any additional agenda items, Julie, please?
Yes, Chair, if you want to name them.
Yes, okay, fine. There is an additional agenda item, which is agenda item 12, which is the Blackfriars Housing Project Infrastructure Costs Agenda, and then the need we consider whether or not we will exclude press and public. So we'll move forward for that and I'll deal with that at that time. Urgent decisions, Julie, please?
No, there's none.
There are none, thank you. Disclosure of interests, to receive any disclosures by members of personal and disclosable pecuniary interest in matters on the agenda, the nature of any interest and whether the member regards the personal interest as prejudicial under the terms of the Code of Conduct. Members are reminded of the need to repeat their declaration immediately prior to the commencement of the item in question. Councillor Rory McCall. Rory.
Thank you, Chair. Item 6, point 23, item E, the Mountfew Street development. I work for East Sussex County Council and Public Health, and I was on the steering committee of the body with SPFT. I've recused myself from that group and I'm stepping back from it.
Okay, thank you for that. I think we've noted that. Thank you very much. Or any other disclosures? Councillor Richard Thomas. Richard.
Richard Thomas as Chair of Rother District Housing Company, items 11 and 13. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so we can move into the agenda item, which is the agenda item 6, which, I'm sorry, Councillor Carl Maynard. Sorry, Carl, yes?
Thank you very much indeed, Chairman. As I did at scrutiny, if there's anything that comes up, particularly on the first agenda item, relates to East Sussex County Council, so as an executive member of East Sussex County Council, but that's a non-pecuniary interest. Thank you.
Noted that. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, so agenda item 6, the Revenue Budget and Capital Programme Monitoring Draft Outturn 22-23. Is Duncan here to present this, or Ash? I can't see whether Duncan's actually on the screen. Oh, you're there, Duncan. Nice to see you. Thank you for appearing. I'll leave it with you, if I may.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just double check with Ash. He didn't want to do an introduction. Ash, are you okay if I continue? Nice. I think he might have frozen, so I think it's best if I continue.
Thank you. If it would
financing of the 22-23 capital programme, along with the updated capital programme for 23-24, and that takes it up to 27-28, and the scheme financing as outlined within the report. Appendix B be approved. The existing capital budget for the purchase of temporary accommodation is used as the 60% match funding required to access the 0.8 million local authority housing fund second round grant offer, and then this amount is added to the overall capital budget. And final reserve transfers in Appendix C be approved. So main headlines are the revenue outturn is £1.7 million lower than the approved budget. We plan to use 3.2 million from reserves, but only needed 1.5 million. So an improvement of 1.6 million on Q3. So very positive. The draft capital outturn of 23.4 million, which is almost double the 21-22 outturn of 12.3 million, but still well below the 150 mil budget. Council tax collection rates is marginally lower than last year by 0.35%, whereas NNDR collection rates are up by 0.84 on last year. There's a new requirement within the Constitution to report written off during the financial year, and this is covered within paragraphs 31 to 34. So just a little bit of the detail around the revenue forecast. So Appendix A. So the main changes from quarter 3 are explained in paragraph 7 to 19, and this includes paragraph 12, so strategy and planning, 260,000. So that's positive movement, mainly due to 123k surplus planning income and a net reduction of 110k in relation to a reduced provision for spend on planning appeals. Got paragraph 13, acquisitions, transformation and regen. So increased surplus of 130 from higher contributions to staff costs from the housing company and SIL, an additional income of 65k from the lottery and the grant receipts. We've got paragraph 15 on resources. So the deficit reduced by 423k, lowering the benefits overpayment of 100k, underspend on staff costs due to staff turnover, 150, and late receipt of additional COVID-19 new burdens grant relating to the previous year, so that was 137k. Moving on to paragraph 16, so net finance costs, 381k, increase in surplus due to 350k interest received on our cash balances. So with rising interest rates and better cash management, 125k loan interest accrual for the housing company, and that's offset by 102k increase in borrowing costs. So overall, compared to the budget, there is a 1.5 million surplus, and that's due to 664k surplus on the interest receivable and 844 surplus on interest payable. So the latter is mainly due to the result of lower than anticipated borrowing costs due to the delay within the delivery of the capital programme. Then we move on to the financial stability programme. So the performance of that, there was an overall deficit of 544k compared to the budget, resulting significant delays with projects such as the Bexhill Town Council, discretionary service transfer. The FSP requires a renewed focus in 23-24 due to the delivery challenges in earlier years. However, there are several savings that are already being achieved in this financial year, which were identified within the service planning process for 24-25. So some of those are revenue and benefits, implementation of online services resulting in staff savings, 45k, 22k saved by reducing the external printing and office supplies budget. Several changes within the neighbourhood services have resulted in ongoing cash savings of 30k, and an increased focus in our treasury management has delivered an additional 100k to the end of June 23 above the budgeted profile budget, despite the full year budget being increased by 200k. Then we move on to income. So the income surplus has seen an overall increase of 237k since quarter 3 due to additional general government grant income, but also more specifically the positive variance on section 31 grant income recognised in the financial year compared to the budget. Then we move on to the capital programme, so Appendix B. So the main variances are summarised in paragraph 23. So the draft capital outturn, 23.4 million, which is almost double the 21-22 outturn of the 13.3, but still well below the budgeted amount. Most of this is related to the anticipated loans to the housing company, the timings of which had previously not been clear. The pace of the programme is cause of most significant variances based on a mixture of external economic factors, high price inflation, increasing construction and material costs, and the organisational capacity. So therefore, these are mainly timing differences rather than project underspends. So inflation and interest rates continue to rise and have a significant impact on the affordability of some of these capital schemes. And as rates may continue to rise, peaking at 6% at the end of the calendar year, and that's based on current information. A review of all projects is being scheduled to test our assumption on the original business cases against the current external financial situation, particularly the cost of borrowing and the impact against planned return on the investments. And paragraph 24 to 27 is new government funding of 0.8 million towards the cost of temporary accommodation. Last couple of sections is just the impact on reserves. So drawdown from reserves will be 1.5, which, as I said, is 1.7 lower than originally budgeted for. So that's a real positive position. The collection fund performance, so marginally different in terms of performance terms compared to the previous years, but no significant issues. But this area will continue to be monitored closely so that we can understand any negative impacts on our collection rates brought on by the ongoing cost of living pressures. And the last section is just around write-offs. So this is a new requirement within the Constitution to report any amounts written off during the financial year. So the table at paragraph 31 shows the performance and trends over the last 5 years, along with the write-offs on irrecoverable debts of from 22-23. So whilst the amount for both council tax and NNDR appear to have worsened over the last 2 years, the main reason for these increases is due to a detailed review of the likelihood of recovery of these amounts, which have been outstanding for some time, so this has skewed the figures. The ongoing reduction in housing benefit payments is positive, and as a result of better data being available to assist with verifying claims, reducing the overall levels of overpayments made to claimants. So in conclusion, the report is positive. Just need to be aware that the underspend situation is mainly due to the timing of the capital spend and profiling, coupled with the increased treasury income. High inflation and increased interest rates will have a negative impact on the financial position if further borrowing is required to support the capital programme, and that may make some schemes unviable. There is an ongoing affordability review of the capital programme to ensure that the scheme remains affordable and delivers the anticipated outcomes. The delivery of the FSP continues to be of paramount importance, and future years' budget deficits will remain challenging to address, but positive steps towards making the medium-term position more sustainable have been made with the 24-25 service planning exercise, although there will be difficult decisions ahead in terms of whether savings, efficiencies and additional income can be generated. Thank you, and if I can hand over to Duncan for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ash. Are there any questions on that report? And Duncan would be only too pleased to field those. Thank you. Councillor Project, sir.
Thank you. And good news story. Thank you very much to everybody involved in that. And I just wanted to point out the planning. It was a short paragraph, but I'm sure you all noticed that the prediction was that we should have a deficit of 164,000. And what have we got? We've actually got a surplus of 96,000. So well done all in that department to actually achieve that. And I understand in September we're going to be looking further at any savings. So this is all good news, and I just want to congratulate everyone on their work on this report. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for those comments. And certainly I think the preparation of the reports have been very, very, from a clarity point of view, Duncan, and thank you very much for your team that have created it in such a way that we're able to follow these numbers. Excellent, thank you. There's a question on screen, Councillor Delaney, Gareth.
Thank you, yes. My attention was drawn to the amount of 306,844 that was written off for our council tax liabilities. And I do appreciate that was somewhat a clearing up of a backlog. And I know a number of other councillors have followed up on it. and I sent through a few questions to Duncan, which he responded to. The first sort of broad question was about the write-offs and whether they were disproportionately from residents eligible for the council tax reduction scheme. And the answer to this seemed to be quite a clear yes. I know on Monday, Chris Watchman's report to the Scrutiny Committee identified that the cost of increasing our CTR scheme to 100% would be about 60,000. However, given the collection rates from residents eligible for CTR are around 80%, as opposed to the 98% for the rest of the population, minus the officer costs for chasing these, the net figure that we could possibly expect to receive in would be perhaps less than the 60,000. So I'm just thinking as we are moving towards possibly amending our council tax reduction scheme, that we just take into account these amounts that are written off, and particularly from residents with the lowest incomes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for making that point, Gareth. Did you want to come back on that, Duncan? I know you have copied back Councillor Delaney on his inquiry, but do you want to make any comment now, please?
Only to say, Chair, thank you, that we will be having a briefing session with members during August to talk about the potential changes to the scheme, and also to highlight some new legislation that's coming forward from central government in terms of second homes. But we'll be bringing a further report through in September. But Councillor Delaney has outlined a couple of bits of information that I think will be really useful for that member briefing and the understanding when we come to debate the new changes to any scheme in September. So I'll include those as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Gareth, for bringing those points forward. Councillor John Barnes. John?
Thank you, Leader. I wasn't going to comment, but Councillor Delaney has outlined from the Rother point of view the difficulty, as I think we will identify in overview and scrutiny, is the unintended consequence on the other precepting authorities, because we affect their budgets much more drastically than we affect our own. But that is for the summer to discuss. I just wanted to bring out a couple of things which I established, and I'm grateful to Duncan for answering my questions, and indeed for the clarity of his presentation and of Ash's today. The first is the recurrent savings are rather less than 1.7 million. They come out at about 500,000, which is very helpful in budgetary terms, but we shouldn't build our hopes too high. The other one, which is much harder to gauge because of the capital review, is that because there is such slippage, with the projects that go ahead, there's going to be a build-up of servicing cost, and that is likely to be at a slightly higher rate than we've enjoyed in the past. Indeed, that really is a budgetary warning, which I think we need to put up storm cones about. But I am grateful that the position is better than we anticipated. And I do pay particular tribute to Duncan, because I think there are some savings in here that are actually down to his regime. And it really is, I think, very good to have somebody who is such an expert in finance.
Thank you very much, John. I think those comments will be echoed by most people here in the chamber and those online. It is encouraging. There's a way to go yet, but we do need to be making progress going forward, and I think this is encouraging in the right direction. Are there any other questions of Duncan? Doesn't appear to be. I beg your pardon, Paul. I'm sorry, I didn't see you. You didn't have a yellow glove, I'm sorry.
Didn't have a yellow hand. No. No, thank you, Chairman. No, just a sort of a brief report from the Scrutiny Committee of last week. the only thing that we really came up with, we went through it all, had a similar presentation, which is all very clear and very good. We've sort of made a request there. I'm on my minutes at the moment, so I'm not on the other screen. But the only concern we had was the sort of underspend in the temporary accommodation budget. Obviously, it's not easy because you've got to wait for something to come up for sale before you can buy it. But we just wanted to make sure that there was priority on that. If there's going to be any sort of looking at schemes on whether they're affordable, we just want to make sure that one is deemed as affordable, because I think the savings and the aggravation that we could have going forward, I think it'll pay for itself quite well, Chairman. So I think it's worth saying from our point of view. Thank you.
Thank you for the work that Scrutiny did to looking at this report. So I think this is a recommendation to note the draft financial outturn for 22-23 based on expenditure and income. Oh, I beg your pardon, Councillor Maynard, I didn't see you there. Okay.
That's okay. It was just to reaffirm redeclare my personal interest, particularly as the council tax reduction scheme was mentioned, just as it was at Scrutiny. Thank you very much.
Okay, so where was I? Purpose of report to note the draft financial outturn for 22-23 based on expenditure and income to the 31st of March. Recommend to council. The 4 items are in the agenda item. If we can have someone to move this report. Yes, Councillor Projak, and someone to second this report. Yeah, Councillor Bayliss. Thank you, Christine. Those in favour? And Ash offline isn't able to vote. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Are you staying with us, Duncan? Are you...
I certainly am, Chair.
Good, okay. I didn't know whether the supper was getting cold. Okay, let's move on to agenda item 7, the freehold transfer of Rye allotments to Rye Town Council. This is the report of Director of Place and Climate, Ben Hook, and Cabinet Member Christine Bayliss. Is Christine going to present this report? That's fine. A little bit late in the day. It should have been 1974, was it?
Yes, you could say that. Yes, so the purpose of the report is to seek approval from Cabinet to complete the freehold transfer of the 2 allotment sites in Rye to Rye Town Council. And the reason for the recommendation is to comply with the Local Government Act of 1972 concerning allotments. So just to give you a bit of background, the allotments of Love Lane and South Undercliff, Rye, are currently let to the Rye Amenity Community Interest Company, which is a CIC, under a single lease. The 2 allotment sites at South Undercliff and Love Lane, Rye, have been owned by Rother District Council since its establishment in 1974. And you can see maps of the location and extent of the allotments. They're attached at Appendix A. The Local Government Act 1972 states that in an area where there is a parish council, it should manage statutory allotments. Therefore, Rye Town Council is the relevant authority for these allotments. Rother District Council has historically maintained that the allotments are non-statutory, but there are strong grounds to offer a freehold transfer to Rye Town Council as statutory allotments. So the details of the proposal. It's proposed that we transfer the freehold of the allotments to Rye Town Council for the sum of £1. The Council's legal team has recommended, subject to the freehold transfer being approved, the inclusion of conditions, including requiring Rye Town Council to designate both sites as statutory allotments. This designation will protect the sites from future development and ensure that they are maintained as allotments for the benefit of the local community. The allotment sites are currently valued as tenanted amenity land, not as statutory allotments. As at the 31st of March, the valuations are £175,500 for Love Lane and £120,000 for South Undercliff. Both sites are considered to have no development potential. And I should add at this point that we have had some communication from a representative from the Allotments Association to actually confirm that on transfer of the allotments over to Rye Town Council, that we will ensure that any sort of issues around maintenance and upkeep are addressed before the transfer takes place. And I think probably Mr. Powell will confirm that. So in conclusion, I think there is a strong grounds that the allotments are statutory and should therefore be operated by Rye Town Council as per the Local Government Act 1972. This, as far as I'm concerned, is a really good news story. We've been listening to the allotment holders. We've been working really well with Rye Town Council to make this all happen. So it's my pleasure to recommend that Cabinet delegate authority to the Interim Chief Executive in consultation with the portfolio holder for regeneration and economic development to facilitate the freehold transfer of the allotments. Thank you. And I propose the motion.
Thank you very much indeed. Are there any questions, Catherine? Councillor Field.
Thank you. It's not a question. I just wanted to comment that regardless of the status of the allotments, living as I do in a town where the town council has managed its own allotments since 1974, I'm going to say this must be a good thing for Rye. And the best placed people to manage local facilities are indeed the locally elected representatives. So I'm really glad this is happening. And I'm sure it will go well. I'm sure the Rye allotments will go on from strength to strength. And certainly in Battle, we've actually got more than were handed over in 1974. We've got some new ones. So
yeah, I think that makes
the world is their oyster.
That's what I'd like to hear. Yeah, wonderful. No, I think it's a great opportunity. Councillor Projects here.
Thank you. And I feel as though there should be a drum roll or trumpets. And it's so good to see some of the town councillors and the clerk there come to hear it in person. It's extraordinary that it's taken so long. And as Councillor Field said, allotments are a good thing in so many ways, so many ways. Let's hope that this is the first step to other services in Rye. As Battle have shown, in 74, things were different in Battle from Rye, and there are lessons to be learnt, I'm sure, there. But this is absolutely wonderful news. So thank you, everybody who's actually sat around the table, listened to each other, and got this solved. Thank you.
Councillor Paul Osborne. Paul?
Thank you, Chairman. I think I decided I'd speak on this. Rye's my hometown. I'm a previous member of the Town Council, previous Mayor Chairman back in 2006 to 2008, and we were trying to do it then. So we never sort of got as far as we might have liked, and I spoke to Richard on the way in, and he said, well, we've been trying since he started, and that was even before now, 2001, maybe earlier, maybe even earlier. So it's taken a long time. I think, to be fair, the Town Council in 74 sort of rolled over and pushed everything away, including the open spaces, the car parks, the allotments, the lot, which, that was the decision at the time, and I think for the last following 50 years we've been trying to change it to a degree. So this is, brilliant, to be honest, and I would say thank you to the members and cabinet for getting, and the officers for getting this sorted out for the town. It's got to be the way forward. They was always argued that they were statutory allotments, and now they can be, and it's great. But what I won't say is don't mention the car parks, because they always wanted the car parks back as well. And the argument was, if we had our car parks, we could pay for the allotments and pay for the open spaces. But that's a decision. I'll let you make that decision yourself. But this one as a starting point, excellent. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Cheryl? Got your hand up, Cheryl?
Sorry, I didn't hear. I just wanted to say, as the current Rye Town Councillor, and one of the team from the ward, myself and Simon Girk. I'm absolutely delighted, and I'm very, very grateful to everybody for going to the extraordinary lengths to get this done. And all of my colleagues that have just spoken took all the words out of my mouth. So all I'm left to say is thank you so much, and congratulations to all. This shows partnership working between Rye and Rother at its finest. And hopefully it's upwards and onwards, and we will be able to together do even more. So thank you so much, and I'm very proud to be part of Rye, and I just don't know, I am excited now. It feels like Christmas. Thank you.
Steady up, Cheryl, please. It's a wonderful outcome. Why it's taken 50 years, I've got no idea, but somebody will tell me. We're not going to debate that tonight. But this is the start of this collaborative working with our towns and parishes to make sure that everything should be looked after by those souls that really are voted locally to deal with it all. So I think we can vote on this. We've had a proposal. Sorry, Catherine, did you want to make another comment?
I just wanted to say, and it might just be me, but I find the volume of the people on the screen actually very uncomfortable. It's very loud. It's hurting my delicate ears. Can it be turned down a bit, or if it's just me, forget it. But if it's other people,
we will look at the sound, and so if everyone can sort of start whispering from now on, we might sort of be able to raise it down just a wee bit. I think we now need just to vote on this one. I think that we're all very, very pleased with it all. So those in favour? I've had a second. Yes, I've had a second across there. Yeah, that's approved. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. You sure you're right? Yeah. Okay. So that's unanimous. Yeah, that's excellent. And it's nice to see colleagues from Rye here this evening. Thank you for coming along. Right, we move on to item 8, which is the UK Shared Prosperity and Rural England Prosperity Fund. And this is a report of Joe Powell, a Cabinet Member, Councillor Bayliss. Is Catherine going to present this, Joe, or are you going to present it, or is Christine going to present it, or are you all going to present it in some way, shape or form? Yep. Then the questions can be directed at the top end there. Yeah. Okay, well done. Where are we going? From the top.
Okay, so the purpose of today's report is to present details of the UK Shared Prosperity Fund and the Rural England Prosperity Fund investment plan and revenue and capital budget allocation, and request approval from Cabinet to progress the project to both procurement, contract and delivery stages. And the recommendation is to enable the UK SPF and the REPF investment plan to progress. So just to say that Rother District Council has been allocated £1 million, which I have to say is a big reduction on the money that we were getting under the European Union funding, but we're very grateful for £1 million, through the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, and £603,963 from the Rural England Prosperity Fund to support the levelling up aims and priority themes which can be found in the main body of the report. So Rother District Council's UK SPF allocation is a mixture of revenue and capital funding and can be spent anywhere in Rother District Council. The UK Shared Prosperity Fund, you can see the table in the report, shows that the revenue funding, there's a total of £747,062 and capital funding of £252,937. Sorry, £252,937. The Rural England Prosperity Fund is all capital expenditure, £603,963, £963 is funding allocated for community and local businesses in the rural areas. And I'm really pleased to be presenting this report because, of course, during COVID, when we were given additional funding from government for COVID recovery projects, we actually set up a really, really good rural business fund, which gave out grants. I think it was several £100,000 that we had available. The grant committee was chaired by Councillor Prochak. And we've modelled, I think, a lot of this fund and how we're going to deliver it on the success of that fund. So that's a really good sort of follow-on and shows that we sort of learn from our own experiences. So details of other proposals. So we've got the UK SPF. In June 22, the Council gathered community partners, local businesses and local authority leaders to create the Rother Shared Prosperity Fund Local Partnership Group, with a very long acronym, which I won't repeat, to inform the process for managing the UK SPF funding and developing the proposed investment plan against a set of identifiable deliverables. And, you know, again, this is really good, working with the community, working with our partners, bringing this forward. Members should note that an additional £40,000 per annum has been allocated against the investment plan from the Homelessness Prevention Grant to fund an additional role to embed employability within the prevention of homelessness. And throughout this, you'll see it's weaved our anti-poverty strategy, our climate strategy. It brings things together and makes sure that we're actually funding those priorities that are important to us as a council. So the Rural Prosperity Fund was announced in autumn 2022, and RDC added an addendum to the UK SPF, Rother Investment Plan, to include Rural England Prosperity Fund investment. This was submitted in November and has been approved by DEFRA and DLUC in April 2023. And you can see the investment plan, and the approval is all found at Appendix C. So it's proposed that a grant is awarded following an open application process to procure services or award grants. And as I say, that builds a lot on the learning from our COVID recovery work. So in conclusion, the investment planning process to allocate funding has involved partner consultation with many community and business organisations. The investment plan aligns with council policies, the council's corporate plan, the anti-poverty strategy, the economic development action plan and the environment strategy will be delivered in partnership with East Sussex County Council and neighbouring Wealdon District Council and Eastbourne Lewis District Council where appropriate for a Sussex-wide offer. And I think at this moment I know that there will be people dialing into this meeting. We have the Cabinet approved or Council approved a capital investment to Rye Fisheries earlier on this year. We have found, or we have heard this week, that there is a plan by the Environment Agency to invest in further development around landing of fish and fish stocks into Rye Harbour. Officers are taking this forward and looking into that so that we can make sure that actually that doesn't undermine our current investment plan, because that would be really key for us. Obviously, we absolutely welcome competition. That's how you get lower prices and better value for money for customers and people. But it is really important that we don't undermine our investment plan and wreck those plans for extra jobs that we hope to create in Rye and that district. So that's my introduction to the paper, and I don't know if Joe and Catherine have got anything they would like to add.
Would you like to add anything to that, Joe or Catherine? Or are there any questions for Joe or Catherine? Now's the ideal opportunity.
Nothing to add in particular. That was well covered, we're really excited by this opportunity, and CAT's been brought in to oversee and deliver the outcomes, because it's important to stress that when we accept grant, we also accept responsibility and liability for making sure that those grants are spent as they should be. So CAT will be delivering that with our wider partners, and watch this space. And please do, engage as you I know you are. Do think of your local partners in your local areas. And indeed people listening to me now from the wider public, and consider whether the detail in the report is relevant to businesses in your areas.
Thank you for that. I did chair a meeting back in June, and there was a real good excitement from the meeting on the basis that this is really good news. It's nice that we can get money from those sort of those pots that come out to us. It's very, very important, and we do deal in a commodity of cash because we can do things with it, and I think it's been an excellent project going forward. Aaron.
Yeah, just to welcome the elements towards decarbonisation and prevention homelessness. Really welcome.
Councillor Sue Project, Sue.
Thank you. Can I just comment on the rural aspect of this, because we've done really well to get, it's not a huge amount, but we've got some money there, and I say that because the Levelling Up White Paper almost was silent on rural disadvantage. And we all know that there is rural disadvantage, but it's not clustered in the way, say, that the Central Ward or Rye is clustered. But there is disadvantage out there. In fact, on every level and every metric you could choose, the rural areas are at disadvantage, whether it's connectivity, whether it's transport, whether it's cost of living, housing, access to education, employment, whatever metric you decide to look at, there's rural disadvantage. So I really welcome that. The other thing I wanted to say was that the local plan has been working now with every town and parish council. They've been coming in and talking about their areas, and they've had a wealth of knowledge, obviously, much better than any of us. And so there's a huge amount of information about what's needed in the rural areas. If you collect that information, there's a huge amount of information about what's needed from neighbourhood plans. So there's a lot of, and also we could look at the SIL bidding. So, for example, Burwash, they want to have a hub. It's not there yet, but they've applied to start that process. So there's a lot of projects out there that are people want. So the information is there. That's what I'm suggesting. So well done on getting the rural aspect. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Sue. Councillor Simon McKirk. Simon.
Thank you. Yes, just to support really what Christine, Councillor Bayliss, was referring to earlier on, the investment in Rye fisheries, which has been so successful and has really helped to not only support the local fishing economy, but really encouraged those fishery businesses to become highly valued local assets whose value really is beyond just the business community, but who have contributed so much locally. And just to restate and reinforce our determination really to support those businesses in the face of what may be conflicting priorities in the moment that Councillor Bayliss was referring to for the involving the Environment Agency. So look forward to finding out much more about that situation in the coming days and weeks.
Thank you, Simon. On the basis that we've got a mover for the report and a second for the report is recommendation to Council with items 1 to 6 as per the agenda, and to enable the UKSPF and the REPF investment plan to progress. So those in favour, that's unanimous, and thank you very much for officers to report this report together, and let's go forward with it. Okay? Yes, indeed so. No other, right, here we are then. So agenda item 9, this is 1066 country marketing. This is a report of Head of Housing and Regeneration, Joe Powell, Cabinet Member Councillor Timpey, who's not with us this evening. You're going to present this, Joe, are you? Or is Yes, 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 yes. Yeah. Good. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Oh, okay. How's that? Okay, good. I'll try to keep my voice down. In the report, you'll see that hopefully clear to you all about the proposal before you. Unfortunately, Hastings Borough Council took the decision, citing financial pressures, that they needed to remove themselves from the 1066 Country Partnership, which is a destination management organisation and is a partnership between local businesses and the Rother, Wealdon and Hastings councils, who all have representatives on the executive board for 1066 Country Marketing Group. So it's important to stress that the board is an entity of itself, and therefore Hastings, the town, is still very much part of this partnership, and the council's decision to remove itself from that partnership is its own decision as its own entity, not for the town of Hastings. So we very much want to reassure our business partners in Hastings and the residents of Hastings that they're very much still part of the marketing of 1066 as an area, which I'm sure the benefits and hope the benefits of which are well understood by members. But just to remind you all some of the headlines of the success of 1066 Marketing Group is that the data shows that we get over 2.5 million hits on our website collectively in a year. We get over 600,000 visitors to the area, and these rank us alongside some of the top results for DMOs across the country. It's also important to note that the job creation that comes through our tourist industry, over 600,000 full-time equivalent jobs spread over about 800,000 roles, is also a real value, and tourism being one of the main industries for the south coast, as it were, but also for ourselves across our rural and coastal communities. So the option before you is that we take on the role as the nominated body that has to, a sovereign body has to take on that role within the partnership, and it's proposed that Rother District Council become that body by inheriting the contract for the website, copyright on the intellectual property or rights to use the intellectual property, and 2 staffing posts, which are the real, as is often the case, where the real value of this partnership lies in those expertise and skills within those 2 staffing posts. So the costs can be funded from the latent budget that's left after Hastings removes themselves. We're confident of that. But we will need to be working, and we are working with the executive board and proposing to them a series of cost-cutting measures and income-generating opportunities to make the 1066 Marketing Group an ongoing concern beyond Hastings' decision to leave. And we're confident that we can and will. In short, it is a very valuable asset to Rother District. I'm sure it makes coherent sense to members here and to the wider community that 1066 as a brand is really strong. That said, we are taking opportunities to vary that brand and work more closely as a region with Sussex, and trying to compete on a more national scale with other areas of the country, which are perhaps more popular, to the west of us mainly. So there's a big context in which we're operating, but on a local level, this is proving to be a very successful partnership over some 30 years, and it's recommended that we take a lead role now in leading it and taking it forward.
Thank you very much indeed, Joe. I think it's an exciting opportunity for us, and it is a significant brand when you think about it. You know, it's a worldwide brand, 1066, which obviously is a battle, as well as Hastings. From the point of view of the Battle of Hastings, I think it was in Senlac Hill in battle, so I think from that point of view. In the absence of Councillor Timpey, Christine, would you like to just move this report?
Yes, I'm very happy to move the report. As the lead member for economic development and regeneration, tourism, I acknowledge is probably one of our biggest industries locally, and so therefore is very important. I'd like to commend Councillor Timpey working with Mr Powell in their efforts to ensure that 1066 country continues as a concept and a marketing tool for our businesses. I know that there's some work being considered about, how we finance that going forward, and how that works. But this really is a sort of the sum of the parts. Is much greater. Thank you very much to you both. I don't know if Councillor Timpey's online, but thank you to you both really for your work on this. Very good. Thank you. I'll propose that. I don't know if I've got a second.
I think Councillor Byrne was going to second that. Thank you, Terry, if that's okay. Are there any questions or observations, apart from the fact that it's another exciting way forward in order to generate all that we know that's so good in... is there a... Sorry? Oh, I do beg your pardon, Catherine.
Yes, I'm really pleased to see this because I have to confess, coming from Battle, which, as we all know, is central to 1066 marketing, when Hastings pulled out, I was really concerned the partnership might fold. And we do need it very much because tourism is our lifeblood. And I'm particularly pleased that the members of staff who've got huge networks and vast amounts of knowledge are going to be able to be retained, because without them, I think we would struggle. We wouldn't struggle, we'd carry on, but it would take some time to catch up. So really pleased to see this report and really pleased we appear to be finding a way forward. Thank you.
Is that a hand that's gone up, John? No, perhaps it wasn't a hand. Okay, no hand's gone up. Okay, fair enough. We've got it moved and second. If we can vote on this, please. And that's unanimous. And thank you very much, Joe, for the report with your team. Okay. Item 10. This is the report, the council-led development, Old Lyd Road, delivery route. This is Joe Powell's report with Cabinet Member Councillor Rory McCourt. Which way is it going? Rory going to present this report?
A few words, and then if Joe wants to chip in.
Yeah, and Tom's here this evening. I think this is your project, Tom, is it? Excellent. So, questions for Tom?
Well, I mean, another outbreak of good news, really. I mean, the element of that we're striving for 100% affordable accommodation on this site has got to be a positive thing, a progressive thing for us to do as a council. It's an improvement on the 2016 Camber Village designation, where new schemes coming forward were required to have only 40% affordable homes within the scheme. Now this is 100%. It's a small site, admittedly, but it's a good start. It utilises 185,000 of Brownfield Land Release Fund, which is, congratulations to the team in getting that. And it was agreed in February that the Cabinet that it be brought forward as a housing scheme. Just to paint a bit of a picture of the housing need in Eastern Rotherham, the rural areas, which have been mentioned by other members here tonight. 67% of all local stock is holiday lets in the Camber area. So if you're a local person that's wanting to rent locally, it's very difficult. And in the absence of accommodation being built, it will remain very difficult. So proposal and the preference is, hopefully, for it to be sold to a developer, registered provider. There are risks associated with developing in this adverse climate and market. It says within the paper that the site would stay as a car park if that was the case. Hopefully it's not the case. Hopefully we can realise this. And I know that Joe and his people have informally sounded out some developers, and there still is an appetite despite the adverse economic circumstances. Finally, I'd just like to say that it was my pleasure and honour to speak at the opening of Icklesham Community Land Trust's 15 home scheme on Friday last. And would you believe it that 12 of those homes are affordable, 3 for shared ownership? Would you believe that for those 12 homes there were over 500 applications for housing, which underlines the need for affordable social housing? And, I'd just like to reiterate our commitment as a council to developing as much as we can and ending the blight of homelessness and insecure housing within Rother. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for those comments, Rory, and I think we are pledged to create homes for our residents, and it's a very difficult task. It's a very difficult task with all that's going on nationally, but this is a start, and that's very, very important. If I can, any questions here? If not, I can invite Councillor Paul Osborne. Paul?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, as you know, Canberra is in my ward in Eastern Rother, and as has been said, vast numbers of second homes, holiday homes, Airbnbs, and everything else. So I welcome this. It's been a hard sell, to be honest, at the parish council for the last 12 months, 18 months. I've got one half of the parish sort of saying, you shouldn't, we need more car parking, not less. And I'm arguing, well, personally, I'd rather, would you not, if you want to look at an empty car park for probably 8 months of the year, then carry on with it. But, personally, I'd rather see some quality housing that local people can actually live in. If they went on the open market, we know as light follows day, they'd be snapped up as quick as you like. They're all sort of looking at the dunes. They'd be spot on for everybody to the YouTubing or whatever they do when they're doing their holidays. So as long as the aspiration comes off and that it's 100% affordable, and hopefully a local connection gets first dibs would make my life a bit easier down there as well. Then I'm happy. I can't see us getting a lot of money for the site because I think Homes England grants are going to be required somewhere, so we're not going to get market value on the site. But that's what you give up to get local housing, and so I welcome it and hope it comes off as everybody envisages. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Paul. Any questions? Any observations at all? Joe, did you want to add something, please?
Yeah, I did want to just throw in and temper enthusiasm slightly. The market at the moment is really unpredictable, and we are confident, and we have sounded out the market, and we are confident that we've got a good chance with this site, but we do need to manage expectations generally when it comes to house building, and that will happen as our new housing strategy emerges through the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. But I just want to sort of remind members that this is about delegating authority to the director to enable us to move this forward if we can. But really good scheme in principle, but they're just not attempting to temper enthusiasm, just trying to manage expectations. Yeah.
To put the reality on it all, and I think that's important, the expectations. But it's a start and it's going forward. Is there any other questions? No. We've got someone that's going to move this. I think Rory has moved it and second this. Councillor Terry Byrne, thank you very much. So it's resolved that the recommendations as items 1 and 2 on the agenda to enable the delivery of new affordable homes in Canberra. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. Excellent. Okay. So we now move on to the additional extra... No, is this the additional extra item? Yes, it is. Yes, this is agenda item 11, the Blackfriars Housing Project Infrastructure Costs additional agenda item. Now we're going to then move. You're going to deal with this report, and then, with the permission of the Chair of Scrutiny, the exclusion of press and public on item 12, if that's acceptable to you, Paul, is it? Thank you very much indeed. So, Ben, you're going to move this report or present this report?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I mean, I would say that it's the discussion on item 13 in terms of excluding members of the public is only necessary if members feel it's necessary to do so. Obviously, we try to keep as much debate out into the open into the public as we can. The purpose of this report is to bring forward recommendations primarily in relation to our working agreement with the housing company. So the report outlines that there is a change in the position in relation to the Blackfriars infrastructure costs. The costs have gone up significantly, and the report seeks to outline a number of reasons why. Members will be aware, following a briefing in previous weeks, the sort of reasons why that is. But just to sort of outline, obviously, the strategic nature of this site is absolutely critical to housing development in Battle. We've just heard from the head of housing and regeneration how difficult the housing development scene is at the moment, and I think the fact that the council can remain a leader in this field in terms of driving forward housing delivery in our district is absolutely critical. This site in particular has been an allocation of some form or other since the 1960s, and has struggled to come forward for all of those decades. And it was only with the introduction of the Homes England Housing Infrastructure Fund money that it was made possible. The initial grant funding was 3.2 million. The resulting grant funding, following further investigation, was raised to 8.7 million. I think that just sort of underlines the level of uncertainty that underpins this site. I think going into the reasons behind why there's been significant changes to the costs in relation to the infrastructure, there's been some unforeseen challenges related to the design work, particularly in terms of levels and the embankment requirements. There's some significant embankment works which have been required. Those going through the design process have sought to be a lot bigger in terms of their costs than initially thought. It must be said that from the period at which the initial design and planning application was granted to today, as we come to Cabinet to seek these authorities, we have gone through a pandemic, we've gone through Brexit, and we have gone through, we're currently going through a period of increased inflation, all three of which have had significant impacts on the building and construction markets in terms of supply chains, labour availability and cost and materials. There have been a series of non-construction related additional costs. These are outlined in the exempt Appendix A. Happy to go into those after this if need be, but obviously try and understand that and for members of the public listening or watching this, the primary reasons why Appendix A has been exempt, as well as the costings behind it, is primarily because it relates to third parties. It also relates to two ongoing commercial negotiations between the housing company and other parties, and therefore it's really important that those assumptions are not made public at this stage, because they have the potential to affect those commercial negotiations. In terms of what this paper is trying to seek to do, we are seeking to seek authority to continue in the face of this adversity and make sure that the housing company has the working capital that it needs to proceed the design work onto the next phase. So the design, the council has already advanced about £3 million to make sure that the company is able to get the scheme to where it is. There's another £1 million needed in the very immediate future, and £4 million to take it to the end of the financial year, which is around £8 million then working capital to get the housing company, to make sure the housing company remains liquid and is able to progress the design of the redesign part of the Blackfriars scheme, and enter into the relevant contracts that it requires to make sure that scheme progresses. In terms of the overarching cost and the resulting cost to the council, more detail of that obviously is included in the exempt paper to give members an idea of where we are now. Following conclusion of those commercial negotiations between the various parties, we will be seeking to bring a clarification paper to September's Cabinet and Council to ensure that we get formal sign-off for any commitment made by this council to ensuring that scheme progresses. Chairman, I'm happy to take any questions. I'm hoping that most of it's within the paper, and obviously anything that relating to Appendix A we would need to do in private session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ben, for that report. This is the here and now where we are. There almost certainly are some issues there that we will be addressing, and I know that the senior management team are identifying where things could have been perhaps different, but this is where we are. So I've got Councillor John Barnes. John?
Yes, Leader. I think it may be wiser for us to go into a closed session because otherwise one's going to be tiptoeing around a very fine line in which one is in danger of spilling over into Appendix A almost without meaning to. I wanted to make a couple of general points, but I do want to ask one or two questions which are pertinent in terms of financing.
I think it makes sense that any further questions perhaps are in closed session, if that's acceptable to those that are here this evening. I think it does make sense to ensure that that is the case, and then, as you say, we're not tiptoeing around and not able to deliver. Yeah.
Yes, please, sir.
Yes. If you wouldn't mind, Stephen, thank you. So we're back online in order to vote on this particular item. I think there's... I'll just wait for Ben Hook to return. Is he gone? Okay. Okay. Right, so if we can have someone to move this report. Thank you, Rory, and someone to second this report. Councillor Terry Byrne, thank you very much indeed. Are you going to third the report, are you, Sam? Okay, so the recommendation is as to it be resolved that the Chief Executive and the Section 151 officer be granted delegated authority in consultation with a portfolio holder for finance and governance, and then there are the two items 1 and 2. Reasons for recommendation are as per the report. So we've had this, the motion, the report moved and second, and those in favour? Excellent. Okay. I think that concludes the business for this evening. Julie, thank you very much for your help. Thank you for those that attended this evening. I'm still very worried about Ash. She hasn't moved again. It's now an hour and 10 minutes, so we've put a call through.